This is the show that gives you a daily dose of happy, uplifting, feel-good stories from around the world. Welcome to another episode of Wonderlous News. I'm Hoyt Christopher. Let's get right to it. All right, so our first segment is Texas teen pronounced dead after rock climbing accident, but comes back to life 2 hours later. This is dubbed a literal miracle. This is really interesting. So this young man, Sammy Burko, teenage boy from Missouri City, Texas. He was at a rock climbing gym. He was climbing, had suffered cardiac arrest and died. Okay, so he had cardiac arrest while climbing. They had to pull him down, got him to the ground. They started administering CPR. They did this for 2 hours. Okay, so the paramedics came. Everyone was doing this. This went on from the moment he died and they got him to the ground and they were doing CPR and the paramedics came and they kept doing CPR. They thought he was done. They couldn't find a pulse. His mom and dad were there and they were both, the mom says she was telling him like, I love you, you know, and saying her goodbyes and just obviously just can't imagine how she felt, but horrible. The husband goes, wait, he's moving. He started to move, realized that he actually came back to life. So they took him to the hospital and they got him back. He's now up and moving around. He's going through a lot of physical therapy. They asked him, hey, what do you remember? The last thing he remembers is that morning before the climb, I guess is what they said, right? So he doesn't remember falling. He doesn't remember any of that. He doesn't remember anything that happened during, he's not recalling what happened during the 2 hours that he was pronounced dead. But what an incredible thing. Can you imagine being dead for 2 hours and then coming back to life? I mean, they're saying, look, this is a miracle. They also mentioned that usually when someone will be pronounced dead and after, much CPR, not much, but working on that person with CPR, when they do come back to life, usually a lot of their brain functions are hindered and they have a lot of issues with, motor skills and so forth. But Sammy's doing actually pretty well. So look, great story. And I'd love to know if he saw things when he was dead for 2 hours. We didn't hear that in the story. So, all right, next one. Next segment. Moose wanders into Providence, Alaska Health Park Cancer Center in Anchorage for a bite to eat. So this moose wandered into the hospital, this cancer center in Anchorage, Alaska, because it saw that there was this plant on the other side of the lobby and waiting area and just started eating away, munching a little bit. And apparently he was able to walk in because he, walked onto the sensors outside the door. He's heavy enough, so the door's open. He cruises in. He starts munching on some leaves. And the hospital was like, okay, this is interesting. And then they go, wait, we better tell everybody. So, hey, everybody, just beware. There's a moose hanging out. No one get alarmed. He's not attacking anybody, but just watch out for him. And it's just nothing bad happened. It was a good story. The moose came in, got a snack, and then they eventually got the moose to leave. But I don't know. I didn't think that the wildlife in Alaska was really looking for food like they do here in California, where we keep, decimating their environment to build houses. But sure enough, I guess a moose has got to eat, and even in Alaska. All right, so next is our Wonderless Moment of the Day, brought to you by Rise by Shaman Angelina. She is an incredible site on Etsy. Handmade necklaces, earrings, bracelets, you name it. I encourage you to check her stuff out. The link to her shop on Etsy is in the description of the show. So check that out. But let's take this moment, as we always do. It's like 10, 15 seconds to enjoy the music and the visuals that Rise by Shaman Angelina has given us today. Yes. Just love that. Hopefully you enjoyed that moment as much as I did. Thank you, Rise by Shaman Angelina. All right. So next segment, dedicated to conservation, islanders choose to live on world's best beach. That's right. So This tiny island park in Thailand has just been named number one on the World Beaches Guide's top 100 beaches on Earth for 2023. Okay. So it's a little island in Thailand. And I mean, it's got everything. The one thing this island does every year, and they said even with this nod as being number one, they're not going to stop, is from June 1st to September 30th, they close the beach, the island completely to all tourism. So during that time, you cannot go and visit the island. You can't get a room. You can't whatever. And they do that because they want to keep the island as pure as possible, right? So those months they take, it takes off that island's life, or it gives the island's life back because people aren't trampling on it. The reefs aren't getting, mangled by people and boats and everything else, right? Things that happen normally when you have a lot of people visiting. I mean, now that it's number one, watch out. Those other times when it's open, it's going to be packed. I mean, this place has pristine white sandy beaches, translucent, turquoise water, and colorful coral reefs that are teeming with life. They don't want to ruin it, but I think it's so cool that they decided, look, even though we could make a lot of money, right? All the tourists that come in June 1st to September 30th, they could make a lot of money doing that. But they said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to keep this place pure. We want to watch those sunsets and sunrises. And now that I'm thinking about it, I want to check out this island too. A link to this article is in the description of the show. So if you'd like, I'd encourage you to look and see. Maybe it's a place you'd want to visit, before June 1st or after September 30th. All right, so it's time for our Wonderlous thought. Let's talk about private islands. Yes, I don't know about you, but still now, but growing up, when thinking about, and even on my vision board, right? I don't know about it, but I've always like, what if I could own an island? What would that island look like? Where would it be? What would it have? And what would I do with it, right? For a while, I actually lived after college. I lived on the island of St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. And, I rented an apartment with a buddy and worked on sailboats and did really cool stuff and traveled to all the different islands that are there. But I remember thinking when I was there, I'm like, what if I could have that island over there? What if I owned that island? What would I do? I thought about having like a small hotel, right? Like a small resort, maybe 20, 50 rooms. I don't know. Is that small? I don't know. But, a little island, a little restaurant, a little bar, have some locals that boat over or live there on site and take care of the guests. But just wondering, that was my idea of an island, owning an island. I'm sure other people have other ideas. Maybe it's just a private island for you and your family or your friends. But there's so many islands that not all of us have seen, right? If you live in California, most likely you've been to Hawaii. If you live on the East Coast, you might have been to, St. Thomas, or St. Croix, or, it's your Virgin Islands, or Aruba, or Jamaica, or the Bahamas. And then now you got these islands in Thailand. I'm going to have to check it out, but, what would your island look like? What would you do? Would you allow gas cars, or would you just do golf carts, electric vehicles? And what would it look like? Would it just be you? Maybe it's just you and your partner. Maybe it's just you and your kids. Maybe it's no kids. Maybe it's an adult island. That could be kind of fun. If that's your thing, you could do a really cool adult island. I wonder if more of these are going to be popping up, though. You read every now and then about a celebrity or a billionaire that's bought an island somewhere. And you wonder, what are they doing, right? What does their island look like, and how do they live on it? Do they even live on it? Maybe they just own the island and they don't do anything. Yeah, nice little thought. So if you have a great, positive, feel-good story that you want to share here on the show, please send it to me, wonderlessnews@gmail.com. I will talk about it on the show. Love to do that. If you like this show, please subscribe, follow, like, whether you're watching us on the YouTube channel or you're listening or watching on one of the many podcast platforms that we're on, which is 11, then please go ahead and do so. In the meantime, thanks again for watching and listening. I'm Hoyt Christopher, and I'll see you tomorrow.